hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. It is Wednesday, and it is the business show, my weekly business show, the heart-based business show, and I am Dr. Charlene Reeves. I'm so happy that you're here with me because we are going to talk about anger versus immunity. And do you know that according to medical evidence, 4 to 5 minutes of anger poisons your system? That's what we're going to talk about today because I want to help you build immunity so that you have no challenges in your life with your health. So I'll be right back to share this great information with you. So hi, gang. One day I'm going to get that straight no matter what. I keep working at it. How many shows have I done? And I still am challenged with that. You got to wonder. But I'm not going to get angry at myself for it. No point in that. So that is what I want to talk to you about. And the reason I want to talk to you about it is because I've had so many clients this week that are just angry. They're angry about the politics. They're angry with their families because they're arguing about politics. They're angry about this virus and the fact that they have to be as careful as they do. They're angry about wearing the face mask. They're so angry about everything. And when I treat them, we have to look at things a little differently. So I thought I'd share with you how I support my clients to look at life differently. Because when you are angry, you are literally against yourself. It's all about you. And I got to ask you, are you intelligent or are you stupid? And if you're intelligent, then why would you constantly poison yourself with anger? You're not happy when you're angry, are you? No, I would think not. And getting angry keeps a consistent amount of anxiety coursing through your body, and then you wonder why you get sick. Anger lowers your immunity. That's the problem. And then we get sick. We don't. You do. I don't, because I don't deal with anger. And I'm going to talk to you about that today and how to adjust your thinking so that you don't bother getting angry. Because just feeling the frustration of anger, all that does is lower your immunity, and it makes you susceptible to diseases. And as I mentioned a little earlier, it makes you susceptible to the dreaded virus. And we don't want that to happen. So here's the bottom line. You are responsible for your own behavior because no one else cares. That's the truth. No one else cares. You think that you're getting angry at somebody and it's upsetting them. Well, it might for a few minutes, but the reality is you're the one that is in pain. And let me tell you about what happened just yesterday with one of my clients. It was a mom, and she hasn't spoken to her youngest son, I think she said 22 years. That's a long time, right? A really long time. And he's still very angry with her. He won't talk to her. He won't be in the same room with her. If he passes her in the hallway, he'll act like she's not there at all. And she could care less. She's way over it because it's over 20 years. Anybody who is going to be worried about that after 20 years of that kind of behavior, what's the point? And so when I talked to her, I said, well, how do you feel about it? Do you care? And she said, no, I don't care. I said, well, tell me about him. And she only hears about him through family. And to this day, he hasn't been able to maintain a relationship, and still not married, and he's in his 40s, still no children. Really, he's pretty much a loner. And a big part of that has to do with the way he treats his mother. He is not at a point in his life where he could love, adore, and take care of a woman because he's still so angry at his mother. So for over 20 years, he has been poisoning his own system. He's literally killing himself. And there's no talking to him about it. There's nothing that anybody can do. But maybe someday he'll come out of it on his own and realize that he's the only one that cares. And that's what I'm saying to you. When you get angry, you're the only one who cares. And what's even worse, oh my gosh, I had another client. Aren't you glad I have all these clients? I had another client who's very, very angry at someone. So it's the other side of the coin. And she's gone around and talked so much negative with all of their mutual friends and anybody she could spew her hate out to. And the person that she's angry about is just like, la, 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 la. And that's what's really aggravating her, is because she doesn't care. The other person doesn't care at all. She's just like, hey, how are you doing? And she goes and sees all the friends, and the friends are really friendly with her. But when she's around, she gets this dark cloud over her, and she goes outside and smokes a cigarette and won't even interact with the group. So what is she doing? She's alienating herself. Do you see that? She's literally alienating herself. And because of her hate and her anger, which is probably maybe justified in her mind, but it's certainly not justified in the person's mind that she's angry at, because that person's happy. That person doesn't care. And that's what I mean, is that when you get angry, people don't care. You may think they do, and you may cast them out of your life or whatever, but they don't care, because they don't have to deal with having to walk on eggshells around you. Now, you know what I mean by that, right? They have to pussyfoot around you and try and please you all the time so that you don't get angry and blow up again. And I think that a lot of this is happening in homes now, because everybody's home together so much, and people are working at home together also. They really don't have any way to get away from each other. And so they start to aggravate each other, and it just gets bigger and bigger. It's sort of like the elephant in the room. What color is it? I posted that on my Facebook the other day about the elephant in the room that everybody tries to ignore. And there's no family out there, let me tell you, there is absolutely no family out there that doesn't have an elephant in the room. There's just no way around it. That's how it is. So it's just a matter of what color that elephant is and what it's holding on to that nobody wants to talk about. So I have a question for you. And that is, why would you keep getting angry and blowing up over the actions of others? You're literally committing suicide when you do this, because every day your immunity drops each time. Now, remember what I said, it's only 4 to 5 minutes that you're angry and you've already poisoned your system. So if you're one who gets angry often and explodes, then just know that just releases a bunch of cortisol and all the negative poisons into your body, and then you'll eventually get sick. Here's the thing. You are responsible for your thinking, for your behavior, and your health. You and only you are responsible for that. No one else has any effect on your thinking. It's only the perception of what it is that's in your mind, because only you have that. I guarantee you that a person wouldn't have the same thing that makes them angry if you just walk 2 doors down. I guarantee you that, because we're all raised differently. We all have different perceptions in life. We all had different experiences in our childhood. And this is where all that starts, is in that childhood. And usually it's between the ages of 5 to 7, something really miserable happens and you react to it. And then over time, you keep reacting to the same thing over and over again, only it's different people and different circumstances, but you still get angry. Now, why is that? You may say to me, I've been working on this for so long. I'm so sick of this. I just want to get rid of it. I can feel it in my core. And when I get angry, it just comes like bursting out of me and I just can't stand it. It's just awful. And I don't know what to do about it. Well, the reason that you haven't done anything that worked is because you were working with your mind. It's not your mind that's the problem. It's what's stuck in your cells, in your core, that started as a child that you have to get rid of. Does that make sense? Whatever it is that happened between the years of 5 to 7, you think back to what that might be. This is what I ask all my clients in their consults. What happened when you were between 5 and 7? And usually they'll remember. Sometimes they won't because they've blocked out their whole childhood, especially if they've been molested. But the reality is that most of them will think of what it is and they go, oh, I never thought about that before. I didn't know that that was the problem. And as a result, you've built up these feelings within you and they're negative emotions and they just kind of ride around on your shoulders. And when they suspect that someone has made you angry or that someone has said something that might make you angry, they trigger you. They literally trigger you and then you explode, which releases all that poison into your system. It's a big circle over and over. And you'll have the same scenario over and over and over. But it's all in controlling your own mind. I have a little thought for you, and that is that this moment right now is the only inevitable moment that you have, meaning it's the only one you get to have. You don't know if there's going to be anything in the future, and the past is already over and done, so you might as well get over it because you can't do anything about it. There's nothing you can do to change it. It's not going to be fixed because you can't go back. But you can shift your perception in this moment. You can change how you think about things in this moment. And then when you do, it shifts all of this moment in the future, if there is a future. So the question I asked you was, why would you keep getting angry and blowing up over the actions of others? They're just doing what they want to do. They're just like, da-da-da-da, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to behave. I don't care what anybody else thinks. This is what I'm going to do. And then you get mad because that's what they decided to do. This happens a lot with teens, and it happens a lot with adults, with grandchildren, where they alienate the grandparents. It's really sad to watch this happen. And there's nothing that you can do about it because it's their perception of what they think life should be. You can't fix it. The only thing you can fix is what's in your own mind. That's what's really important. So I want to tell you a little story. Would that be okay? Let me just have a little quickie sip here. All right. My grandpa Lou, who I've talked about before, taught me the most wonderful things. And he would fix breakfast with me, and we would go to the park together. And we would make toast, and we'd put this fabulous, it was always on French bread toast. I love French bread toast. And he would put peanut butter between 2 slices, and then we'd wrap it up in foil. Then he would make hot chocolate. And in those days we had, well, I think you still have them, glass bottles for Coca-Cola. And so we would pour the hot chocolate in the Coca-Cola bottle and put the top on so that it wouldn't leak. And then he would roll them up in newspapers. and we'd both have our chocolate drink. And then in those days, we had these little boxes of cereal that you could cut down the middle and down each end and open it up. And we would take those, and I'd always get to choose. There was so many choices, and I'd always felt very special because I got to choose. And it was usually something kind of sugary that I shouldn't have had. But that's how Grandpa was. He just wanted me to be happy. He didn't care about any of that other stuff. And so we would, oh, and he would put milk in a jar, and then we'd put it all in a bag. And at that time, he had a little, what was it? Miniature dachshund. And so we would go put the leash on Gretel, and then we would walk down the street in the early, early morning. It would be like 6 o'clock in the morning, and the dew would be on the grass, and it would be so quiet. There'd be no cars, and we'd go down to the park. And then we would have our breakfast on the bleachers. Actually, it was where they scored the softball games, and we'd sit and talk about life. And my grandpa taught me such wonderful things about life. And so we'd sit and we'd talk maybe for an hour or so. And then we would get down, and then he would teach me something. I never knew what it was going to be. It was always something very cool. And on this morning, he took me over, and I remember I was only maybe 6 or 7, and he took me over, and there was a bicycle rack there. And it was kind of loose. It had always been loose. It wasn't anchored well. And he said, get on the rack. I want to show you something. And so he got on the rack, and he pretended to take my ticket so I could go for a ride. And it was so cute. I adored him. And he called this riding the rack. And he rocked it back and forth. And he said, when you sway with life, you focus on the middle way so you don't fall off. Now, what is the middle way? The middle way is a way to look at life so that you stay calm. It's not just about survival. It's about you being calm. It's being focused on the moments in your life. Remember, I just said only this moment is inevitable. That's the only moment that we have. And so he would sway me back and forth. And he said, if you are going to stay in the middle of way, you're not going to think about the behavior of others. They have to live with the consequences of their own behavior. And that he told me that I am responsible for how I think about each moment. And that's what determines how my life will be arranged. That's what determines how I'll live my life. Will I live my life in peace, or will I live my life in anxiety and anger? He taught me at that very young age how to ride the rack. And I'm teaching you now. And what he said was, if you can stay in the middle, you can maintain your health, you can maintain your peacefulness, because a sudden jerk on the rack, and that's what he would do, to one side will cause pain if you're not focused in the moment. And guess what? You'll fall off. And sometimes I did fall off. And he taught me for long periods of time, maybe 5 minutes at a time, that seemed like forever to me at that age, that you have to stay focused on this moment at this time, or you will fall off. And he likened it to the beautiful trees that were in the park and said, you see the trees sway with the wind. And that's what I always want you to do, is sway with the wind. If you can learn to sway with the wind, nothing will bother you, because whatever happens, you'll be in the middle and you won't fall off. Now, this goes very well with the anger that I was talking to you about earlier, and what I told this mom who was so upset about her son. After 20 years, she thought, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for him to grow up, and he's never going to grow up. I don't know how to overcome how I'm thinking about this. So what I told this mom was, don't worry about it. Just stay in this moment, enjoy this moment in your life, and let him be who he is. He may never grow up, and who cares? You know, moms out there, I want to tell you something very important. We don't own our kids. And if you think you do, you're so wrong. You don't own your kids. We are only just a vessel for the kids to come here to Earth and do whatever they came here to do. But we don't own them. We really can't tell them what to do past the age of when they can take care of themselves. We're done. And yes, we spent many, many nights awake all night long. We took them to the hospital when they were really sick. We diapered them and fed them and made sure they were safe all the time. But that was our job. That was just our job, because we are the vessel that they chose to come in through. And that's all you are, nothing more. So it's when you think you're something more than that, that it becomes a problem for you. So learn how to blow with the wind. Don't worry about what others think. They're going to think whatever they want. There's nothing you can do. You know, I had another woman who came to me because she was considering leaving her husband because he had a list of everything that she had done wrong in their 13 years of marriage. Can you believe that? A list. And every time she tried to speak with him about something that was bothering her, he'd pull out the list and start reading it off. And she couldn't even make her point. And so she's considering getting divorced to get rid of the list. I mean, it's crazy, right? And he gets mad at her all the time, all the time. So it's a very uncomfortable atmosphere. So we're working on how she thinks about things so that she can release all of that and let go. Then she can decide whether a divorce is good for her or not. Maybe she'll just move out and not get a divorce, because then she is taken care of, but she also has her own life and she doesn't have to be around someone who's angry all the time. And the list can stay over there in that house. It doesn't have to come with her. Anyway, so here's some lessons that you learned today. To stay in the middle way, right? To stay in this moment. Don't worry about the future. Let the past go. It doesn't really matter anyway. Just stay in this moment, because you have the ability to make any decision that you want in this moment. And whatever decision that you make in this moment, it is going to reflect on your future. It won't do a thing for the past, but it will reflect on your future. So be very careful and think it through before you make your decision. If you believe in God or the universal flow or spirit or whatever you believe in, ask what it is you should do before you make a choice. Ask and then wait for the answer. Some people ask, but they don't wait for the answer, and then they get distracted, so they don't hear the answer, or they never get the message. They just went on and did their thing. And, you know, we had a show the other day about that on Ask the Expert, about manifesting. And people write what they want, or they speak it into the air, but then they're not focused on it. So they forget that they asked for that one thing. And right now you can manifest quicker than you've ever been able to manifest, because the energy levels are so high right now. So think about asking for what it is that you want. And if it's somebody that you're with that's angry all the time, give them this show and let me talk to them. But you have to decide that you are going to maintain your peace and you are not going to get angry. So I want to thank you for attending today. I hope that gave you some good insight on anger versus immunity. Stay away from the anger so you can keep the immunity up. That's so important. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care and namaste.